Hey everyone, what's going on? I've been thinking a lot about the new Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion expansion and the massive patch that came with it, and I've got to say, there's a lot to unpack. The expansion, called Into the Abyss, rolled out alongside the big 1.2.0 update, and it's honestly the kind of drop that feels like a mini sequel rather than just a DLC. The devs clearly put effort into making it feel fresh, while still tied into the core game's identity: fast, loud, metallic chaos in the sky. But now with deeper lore, tougher encounters, and a new zone that really pushes how you approach combat. Let's start with the heart of it all, the new area. It's called Investigation Zone, Locus Initi, and it's this haunting, uncharted zone that feels like the world of Daemon X Machina got cracked open and you're stepping into its core. The vibe is darker, heavier, and the terrain itself is practically a weapon against you. It's not just a backdrop, it affects mobility, visibility, and even how you pick your fights. You can tell the team wanted to challenge the player's adaptability. The map's layout isn't simple corridors and open arenas anymore. It has layers, hazards, vertical traps, and areas where you have to think about how your arsenal setup interacts with the environment. The new weather and lighting effects give it that eerie, post-apocalyptic glow that makes everything feel unstable, like the world could collapse any second. Now, this new area isn't just for sightseeing, it's loaded with missions. There are fresh story missions, exploration tasks, and high-intensity combat trials that tie into this mysterious narrative thread running through the expansion. The writing leans into the game's themes of human-machine boundaries and moral ambiguity. But what really sells it are the boss fights. The new bosses introduced in Into the Abyss are just stronger. They're more strategic. You'll see mechanics that punish mindless aggression. These enemies have multi-phase transformations, armor break states, and environmental manipulation abilities, meaning you'll need to pay attention to terrain cues, timing, and how your arsenal's loadout synergizes. For example, one of the bigger fights plays out like a duel in an arena that's actively disintegrating. As the battle progresses, the floor literally collapses, forcing you to switch between ranged and melee tactics mid-fight. It's the kind of encounter where pure reaction time isn't enough. You have to anticipate transitions, manage your cooldowns smartly, and exploit openings when the boss exposes weak points. You'll feel that rhythm between chaos and control that Daemon X Machina always nails when it's at its best. And of course, where there are new bosses, there's new loot. Into the Abyss drops a hefty selection of gear, both aesthetic and functional. We're talking about new weapons that expand the game's meta, some focusing on burst damage for those all-in offense players, and others that emphasize sustained fire and energy efficiency. There are reports of new auxiliary parts that drastically change survivability in hazardous zones, making your builds more specialized depending on the mission type. For players who love theory crafting, this expansion gives you a whole new sandbox to play in. This is where you can really connect with your audience in a video. Talk about builds. Imagine explaining how a new energy rifle can combo with a revamped booster module to give you sustained air superiority over enemy swarms, or how you can use a newly added auxiliary core that lets you resist corrosive environments longer, letting you kite enemies into traps while you maintain optimal distance. These are the kind of tips and insights viewers appreciate because they can immediately apply them when they log in. Now let's talk about the patch, the big 1.2.0 update that shipped alongside the expansion. It's not just a compatibility patch, it's a performance overhaul in some ways. There are fixes for connection issues, especially for co-op missions and online lobbies. That's a huge win for players who were struggling with random disconnects during long runs. The rematch simulator also got tweaked to address weird behavior when retrying missions. And while not all of the adjustments are flashy, you can tell the developers used this patch to smooth out the experience for both solo and co-op players. If you've played before and got frustrated with weird online hiccups, it's worth jumping back in now to feel the difference. Another subtle but important update that came with this version is how mission transitions and asset loading are handled. The stutter you might have felt when entering high-density combat areas? Pretty much gone. Frame consistency has improved, and even though the devs didn't brag about it in patch notes, players are reporting smoother gameplay and faster load-ins. Something you should emphasize in your video is that the DLC content isn't instantly available the moment you install it. You'll need to have cleared up to Chapter 18 in the main campaign before you can access the new missions. It's a good reminder to new or returning players that the game expects you to be decently progressed before dropping you into the deep end. This design choice makes sense. The new encounters are clearly tuned for late-game arsenal builds and player skill. If you're underleveled or still figuring out your systems, you're going to get shredded fast. This naturally transitions into giving your viewers some prep advice. Encourage them to revisit their builds and fine-tune their arsenal configurations before stepping into the new zone. Emphasize the importance of mobility mods and high-output weapons, because the new enemies hit harder and the combat arenas are less forgiving. Energy management is key, especially since the environmental hazards drain or restrict your boost usage in certain areas. Even if you're confident, you'll want to stock up on repair kits and consumables because longer fights mean more attrition. Now, for those who play co-op, this expansion is going to test your coordination. Boss AI behavior in Into the Abyss has a noticeable focus on punishing teams that cluster too tightly. There are new AoE effects, stagger bursts, and tracking projectiles that demand spacing discipline. This makes voice communication and synergy matter again. If you can assign roles, like one player drawing aggro while another manages damage and suppression, you'll have a smoother time. This is the perfect spot in your video to share a bit of personal experience or footage from your squad runs. Even a quick story about how your team wiped the first time before learning the mechanic can make the content feel alive and relatable. Let's move to visuals and atmosphere, because honestly, this is one of the expansion's biggest wins. Locus Initi looks incredible. The color palette shifts from the industrial reds and oranges of the main world to deeper purples, electric blues, and pulsating whites that make the map feel alien yet mechanical. The soundtrack leans into that feeling too, with heavy bass layers and echoing synths that give you this uneasy, cosmic tone. It's like the soundscape itself is a warning that you've crossed into somewhere forbidden. Mentioning this in your video isn't just flavor, it helps your audience imagine how the world feels and builds hype. Then you can zoom out to the bigger picture, how this expansion fits into the overall future of the game. The developers have been consistent about supporting Titanic Scion post-launch, and Into the Abyss feels like a statement of intent. They're not just reusing assets or padding content, they're expanding the world logically, both narratively and mechanically. It's the kind of DLC that makes you think, okay, they're serious about long-term development here. You can speculate a little about where they might go next, maybe deeper story arcs, more cooperative modes, or even PvP expansions. Just be sure to phrase it as fun theory crafting, not confirmed info. As you move into the closing stretch of your video, circle back to what this update means for players overall. Into the Abyss isn't a casual drop-in DLC. It's a statement that Daemon X Machina is still evolving. It's a reminder that the community still matters, and the developers are listening. Between the new map, the rebalanced systems, the improved performance, and the sheer ambition behind the new encounters, this is easily one of the most impactful updates the series has ever received. Wrap things up with a personal touch. Talk about what excites you most. Maybe it's the thrill of those insane boss battles, or the satisfaction of testing new weapons. If you've been around since the first Daemon X Machina release, remind your audience how far the game has come. The original was already a unique mecha action experience, but Titanic Scion Into the Abyss shows just how much potential still lies in this universe. Then finish with a strong, friendly close. Something like, so yeah, that's everything in this huge expansion and update. I've been having an absolute blast tearing through Locus Initi, testing builds, and figuring out which gear setups actually hold up against those new bosses. I'll have some full loadout breakdowns, boss strategies, and maybe even a story analysis up soon. So if you're diving back into the game, let me know what builds you're running in the comments. Until then, keep your arsenals tuned, stay mobile, and I'll catch you all in the next mission.